But my name is Vigo. I work as a city planner with the engineering department. We launched the Safe Street Terracotta Action Plan. We received a federal grant of $200,000 thank you, to do the safety action plan, and we need your help and we need public feedback. We launched the survey online. We also created the interactive mapping tool where you can actually tell them, oh my God, I had a close call in this intersection. This sidewalk is just not continuous. There is a missing link, or you can go tell that this intersection is completely unsafe to cross or for the left lane turn. However, anything related to the traffic, pedestrian, or you ride a bike. This gentleman stopped by in our room D and give us the couple things and ideas where we don't even know, because I don't drive every street of this city. I don't know. If you guys tell us that this is your opportunity, really to okay, if you need an improvement on certain streets or the intersection or the sidewalk, please tell us. So we can include in the plan and go for the best. We can get the construction dollars and we can make those improvements.
What's the website? What do we tell you?
I can provide some, and we are actually sitting in the room D before and after of this legislative session. So after you guys are done with the session, you guys can stop by, and we are going to be here until 1 o'clock. I'm going to leave, this flyer is outside, but I'm also going to leave some flyers over here. And we also have the iPad in the room. People who want to just take advantage of being here and take the survey right there. If you don't want to do the digital tool, we have the big map. We can put the sticky notes. But please, just come and provide your input. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you all there. Thank you. Absolutely. Oh, yes. You write this. We are sitting
He's on his way.
Okay.
Montreal, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm doing well. Trying to do some work at your alma mater. And it's going well. I'm loving it.
Okay. I thought you might.
It's a good community. And I was a little nervous. I come with things, but actually, they're great.
Well, absolutely. And that's very much needed.
If we're talking about things,
I'm going to say something very quickly, and that's why I'm getting out of here. But then I let Ms. Tanya get back in here.
so you just pick it up.
Yeah, that's all right.
You're doing that right.
You actually, yeah.
I'll say that until we get it. And then the end.
All right. I like that. I'll let you get things off.
Okay. Yeah. Give you a chance to finish your donut. I don't think I've ever seen you eat a donut here, Ronald.
Here's lemon to cheers. I got it all.
Good morning.
Hi. Yes. Correct.
What I want to do is
It's a big, beautiful bill.
Well, I heard the capital projects are all.
Well, they never
No,
were in.
that's straightforward as us getting it reserved on the calendar, so it doesn't get by on the
Well, no,
Yeah, so down here we have these three that are always built
we gotta
into
wait
one
till after
property.
the,
So the best case
or
would
the
be to give you
revenue.
the revenue, which is right in there.
Hey,
Yeah, but
good
like,
morning.
you
I'm
might
well.
be able to
How are
get
you?
one of those on Saturday because we'll still be in here.
Morning, boss. Nice job the other night singing.
But meeting room D is right around the corner. It's a decent program. Otherwise, we have to be
No, I had,
upstairs.
some of us in the probes had to
Okay, we're all ready?
stay over.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, good morning, welcome. We have all 5 legislators here, you guys. This is exciting. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Our legislators make a good faith effort every month to try and join us, but it hasn't always been the case that we've had all 5 here. So this is worthy of a little bit of recognition. So my name is Christy Howe. I'm the library director. I'm going to turn it over to Rondrell here in just a minute. Last month I kicked off this event by talking a little bit about how important it is that we're able to have events like this in our community, right? It's an essential role and duty of a legislator to interact with their constituents, and by golly, it is an essential duty of a citizen to be engaged and participating in the process in this way. So I thank you all for coming out to do this. I thank the legislators for showing up to interact with all of you and to do their duty. It's a really reciprocal type of relationship here, and I appreciate that all of you are taking part in that process. I'm also continuing to be aware that some of these style events around the country are getting a little bit wild. And we have a rich history here of being respectful in our dialogue and being respectful in our disagreement. So I encourage you to engage, to be communicative, to even disagree, but to do so in a way that is mindful of the fact that we are here in community, we're here in the library, we don't need to yell and scream at each other, we can just disagree respectfully. Okay, is that fair? Fair request? All right, thank you. We're going to use some timers today, as is our practice. That's just an effort to try and get through everybody here. We want to hear as many questions and responses as we can. We're not trying to limit anyone's access. I'm going to take one little personal moment here, a little point of privilege, I guess, but this is my 13th year of doing these Cracker Barrels, and today is my last one. So, drama. Drama. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to work here in the Vigo County community. I didn't grow up in Terre Haute, but I was born in Terre Haute and grew up in one of those small towns where you come to Terre Haute to be born. To go out to dinner, to play tennis at the Bubble in the winter, or, to go see the movies. I lived across the state line in Illinois, so we were always having to remember, what's the time change and what time does the movie really start? Are we going to miss it if we don't leave in time? But so this has been a bit of a being at home for me. It's been 12 great years with my family, serving a community of people whose lives look an awful lot like mine and who I care about. So it's been a real privilege and pleasure to serve all of you. This has been such a unique event. I've been in libraries for 25 years in 3 states, and this is the only community I've worked in that has done an event like this. I hope it continues to thrive and to carry its rich history forward. So thank you all for being part of that process. Let's have a great Cracker Barrel today.
Big round of applause for Christy. Really a pioneer and advocate for, as I was talking with Representative Paff earlier today, for making the library a safe place for all to come and to express their opinions and to have just a good time in the political process. Christy, we do appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you again. All right, so let's kick things off. I'm Rondrell Moore, and we will be standing right now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, and so we've already addressed kind of the groundwork for the rules for this Cracker Barrel session that talks about respectful communication. So we'll just move right on to the introduction of our legislators. As has been mentioned, all of our legislators are here today, which is a phenomenal thing. And so we're going to ask each legislator to have about 2 minutes for an opening comment, and that's just this is the final Cracker Barrel session of this legislative session, so just kind of talk about some of the big things that might still be on the agenda and some of the things that have been accomplished. So let's start with Bruce. I'm sorry, Representative Bruce.
No, Bruce is fine. That's fine. It's really good to be here. Beautiful morning out, and at the beginning of this session, I told a lot of people, that actually I had never felt like we were going into a decision where there would be so many balls juggling at the end of the session, and that's really where we're at. This has been a tough one in the past. One of the things that we had to rely on, which I don't feel was a good thing, but as a result of COVID and so forth, we were getting a lot of federal dollars that were being thrown at the states. Well, the problem with that is that I would agree that was not a good thing, but but nonetheless, as a state, and in a sense that made it easy because there were all these dollars that were being thrown at us, but we were playing with basically house money, not our own money, so to speak. And one of the things, at least, that was a blessing for the state of Indiana is that rather than come up with new ways or new programs, to begin spend that money, what we did was we paid down debt. Well, now that the federal government isn't throwing that money at the states, and I'm glad they're not, because it was simply money that was being printed, quite frankly, that our children and our grandchildren will have to deal with in terms of those debts. The bottom line is this time around we're dealing with our own money, not house money, so to speak. And so anyhow, we've been trying to provide property tax relief, which has not been an easy formula to come up with. But overall, I still think it's been a good session because I feel like we're kind of returning to reality, and we still have 2 more weeks to finish it out. But I'm glad with the direction that we're heading in, and it's just okay. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Representative Tim Yocum.
Glad to be here today. Honored to be here. This year has been a challenging time to step into something that you're not really familiar with, and I want to say that I serve at a very good place, Indiana. I'm very proud to serve you all in a capacity in the state level. Look forward to the next year. The challenges are there, and I look at those things as challenges. These issues we have, especially with property rates and things like that, very concerning to me, but I will figure that out eventually, and I will understand that, and I'll be able to talk with a lot more authority on these things than what I do now. I do appreciate my House reps here and also our senators who have been a big help to me, helped me along. I will say that I will be at the meetings every time I can. Next year I would like to start something at 9 o'clock here, that I will have another session for people to come and speak to me before the meeting, so be more of a personal time. I look forward to serving you, and like I said, I'm new, don't know everything, I never will, but I'll try to.
Representative Bob Heaton.
Okay, thank you all for being here, I appreciate it. As I talked to Bob Murray back there in the back, it's pretty close to mushroom hunting season, so I don't know if you need to get out of here and start hunting this afternoon, but I might. But anyway, we're down to the last 2 weeks of session, and some people will say, well, this is really when the session starts, the last 2 weeks, because you deal with conference committee reports. And so we started out in January, February, passing bills in the House and sent them over to the Senate, and the Senate did the same thing, and so we're looking at their bills. And now if we disagree with each other, we will dissent on that and then have these committees and kind of hash it out, so to speak. And therefore it might make it better, or just might eliminate the bill altogether, so you just don't know. But I don't know if anybody's here from the mayor's office. I know the mayor a couple weeks ago wrote a letter to the editor about, be sure you tell your representatives and senators that we need to kick in $47 million to Homestead Hall to renovate that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know about Senator Good or anybody else. I didn't receive any calls about that, but the bottom line is we're going to do all we can to fund some of these projects throughout the state, but it boils down to we just don't know if we're going to have the money because of the Medicaid increases that we've had over the last year or two. I know Ivy Tech down here has a project of $67.14 million that they want to renovate that and really build a new building and so forth, and that would be quite impressive if we can do that. But we'll just see where the money, where it's going to come from. We'll know something later this week about that, and hopefully we'll have those funds to build some new buildings and renovate them throughout the state. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Representative Heaton, and Representative Tanya Path.
Good morning. Thanks for coming out. I promised that I would make this announcement in room D. Around the corner is the Terre Haute Safe Streets Terre Haute. So you can go over there and help the mayor, just Terre Haute residents, help the mayor indicate what streets need help for safety. So thank you for coming. And so this is always the hardest time for me, is the conference committee, because the way it's set up. Last year I went to conference committee, I walked in, it was 30 seconds, there was no report, and they said, well, we don't have a report yet. Okay. And then we waited, finally got the report. I didn't agree with it, so I refused to sign because I'm the conferee. and they just remove me and put a Republican on, and then the bill goes through. So to me, it's a rough time process. There are bills that all of us up here have voted yes on, and they change so much. By the time you get through everything, you're voting lots of times on a completely different bill. So as far as the process goes, this is just a rough time for me personally because it's so hard to keep track of all the changes we're doing. As of yesterday, there were 25 dissensions. I don't know if that's changed, which just simply means the bill either started in the House, Senate changed it, came back, the author didn't agree, or vice versa. So that's what sends it to conference committee, is when the author just simply doesn't agree. So it'll be a whirlwind the next 2 weeks, so please ask as many questions as you want to today. We will try to answer them, but keep in mind that things change. So thank you.
Finally, Senator Greg Good.
Morning, all. Greg Good, State Senator. I made a pledge at the very beginning when I became your state senator that I would work tirelessly to ensure that every piece of legislation, can you all hear me in the back? Every piece of legislation that I author or take the lead as the Senate co-sponsor on a House bill that comes over to the Senate will have a Democrat co-sponsor. And so far I can continue to say I'm accomplishing that mission. Real quick summary, because I don't know if we'll get to it in the Q&A. Legislation that I'm carrying around Senate Bill 382 that would create the partnership between county government, city government, and our Vigo County School Corporation to invest in our high schools. Hit a roadblock over on the House of Representatives side. I didn't think it was going to get a hearing in the relevant committee, but I was able to tack it on as an amendment to another bill. I don't like doing it that way. I believe that bills ought to stand alone. But I feel even strongly that we need to do something about our high school facilities. So that language is still alive. I'm the author of a higher education bill that increases alignment between our workforce needs and our post-secondary training and education levels. I'm the Senate lead of legislation that was started in the House that actually increases child abuse reporting and making it a little stronger that, hey, if you see it or suspect it, you need to report it. I'm working on 2 Medicaid-related bills to ensure that individuals who need Medicaid the most, parents who are taking care of their children with complex medical needs, will not be forgotten. And then finally, I'm working closely with our local judges to create an additional magistrate because of the demands of our court system. This is something I've been working closely with Tanya and Bob on. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we're going to ask for our sponsors to please line up behind the podium, and everybody just kind of diagonal that way so that we're not blocking the camera. And we would like to, as they're walking up, recognize our sponsors, of course, the Vigo County Public Library, the League of Women Voters of Vigo County, Vigo County Teachers Association, Vigo County Taxpayers Association, Greater Terre Haute Branch of the NAACP, and Southern Indiana Area Labor Federation. If we could all give them a round of applause for helping to make this event possible. And just a couple of quick notes before the sponsors ask their questions. Each sponsor will only be able to ask one question for the organization. If you'd like to come up after as a civilian, that's totally fine. All attendees should stay seated while the sponsors are asking their questions. You'll have time to get up later. 1 minute to ask your question, 1.5 minutes to respond, and not all legislators are required to respond to every question. And with that being said, please state your name and your organization.
Good morning. Bob Murray, Vigo County Taxpayers Association. I don't have a question this morning. I just want to publicly thank you all for consistently showing up to these Cracker Barrels. As I understand it, not all of your peers do that. And I'd like to particularly thank Greg Good for his daily postings of highlights. It keeps us informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sylvester Edwards, Greater Terre Haute NAACP. Again, we'd like to thank the library, all the representatives, Randrell Moore, and the citizens of Terre Haute, Vigo County, and Wabash Valley. Simply is this: would you tell us the bill that went through that you most proud of, the name and the number, and one that you wasn't too proud of, but you voted for it anyway?
Loaded question.
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Sylvester, you always have some of the best questions. I thank you. The legislation I think I'm right now the most proud of, and it's almost across the finish line. I think it will be. It is House Bill 1391 that it's the sort of the brainchild of a local guy who is the president of Thrive West Central, Ryan Keller, and it's a Medicaid diversion program. And it's common sense legislation that lets work with our area agencies for aging, our AAAs, and use state dollars to allow individuals, whether they're elderly or disabled, let's modify their homes so that they can remain at home where they want to be and live a more independent life. And if we do that, if we can prevent somebody from going into an institution-based provider funded by Medicaid, it not only saves money, but it's the right thing to do. So I'm the lead Senate sponsor of that legislation. I think we're going to get it across the finish line. And, there's always, I guess, every bill has something in it that I'm not crazy about, and I can't necessarily pinpoint one. And it's tough governing. There's always something in there where it's like, gosh, I wish that wasn't in there, but you always got to try to look kind of for the greater good. But it's a great question.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
You guys, you got anything? I'm still looking. I'm trying to find one that I voted for that I was happy about. I'll tell you.
It's not a good sign.
Well, Sylvester, in Ways and Means, I put in, I think it was Amendment number 2 into House Bill 1144 that deals with courts. And this was the amendment that would include a magistrate here in the county. And in committee, in Courts and Criminal Code, back in February, I believe it was, I talked about that bill, and they all voted for it, but it eventually got amended into 1144. But Dan Kelly, Judge Dan Kelly, and Judge Sarah Mulligan, they testified in committee about this and talked about how much backlog they have here, and it's incredible that the work that's been done in the past, but they just need more help, and so. This bill is alive and well, and I think it's going to pass. But I had a friend of mine, Craig McKee, here a few weeks ago. Thought it just got, lost in all the bills, but it didn't. So it's still alive, and so hopefully that'll go through here in the next couple of weeks. So, but it's much needed here in the community.
I'll go. So. I'm going to keep pushing the one that didn't make it across the hurdles, 1087 I-70 lane expansion. That was my bill that I authored that never got a hearing. And I understand it, but, safety is at stake. One that I did vote that I liked was House Bill 1518, that state officials can't buy luxury vehicles, which we have a lot going over there, and you got to have skin in the game, tighten your belts. And then the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary of State both bought very expensive luxury vehicles. So, and I believe, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm pretty sure it passed unanimously. I think we all believed in that. So that was a good one. It would have to be an education bill, because in education we have a bill, well, one of them was 102 pages long, and there's always just good, 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 bad, good, good, good. And so you have to constantly go back and forth. Is it better to get the whole thing passed or not? So, sorry, I can't come up with a number.
Well, it's, I would say, I don't know if I have a great sense of joy about it. I mean, it was as much as it was just a necessity. Senate Bill 1 that we're still dealing with is, having to do with the property taxes. that's just been a tough bill. I mean, we've been trying to do a balance between local units of government and state government, and the bottom line is still protect the property owner. And so kudos to Jeff Thompson, the chairman of Ways and Means, who is the author of that. Well, he's not the author of it, but it's basically the sponsor. But is a lot of the language in it is his amendment that came out this week. And so again, as when we began this session, I knew that this would be again a tough year because we're not playing with house money; we're dealing with our own money. I think we've achieved a spot that I don't know that any of us would say is a perfect one, but it's a good one. I mean, I still think that overall it's fair to local units of government, and it's also protecting property owners. And as far as it was funny what Bob had mentioned about House Bill, I think it was 1144. Well, I got a call yesterday from Dina Martin, the Superior Court judge in Greene County, and she said, Bruce, she said there was an amendment offered out of a Senate committee that does away with our Superior Court. So I'm fighting on that end of the spectrum as well. So it's what turns out to be a blessing to one turns out to be a bit of a curse to another. So we're dealing with that issue, and so.
The Senate bill that we just approved here in the House has been a challenge. So many moving parts and so much detail, and it's hard to comprehend all of it and come back and be able to discuss it publicly. And I feel inadequate, when I can't totally discuss or tell you everything about a bill. It just takes a while to grasp that. So that was a challenge. And then there was another bill that came out that compensated local counties for state parks. We're working on adding $1 to the entry fee to those gate passes to help compensate counties for emergency response and different things that the counties are actually spending on that. And I thought that was a very good bill, but it's a challenge.
Okay, thank you all. I'll see you next year.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Leah Myers. I'm a board member from the League of Women Voters. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being in attendance today, all of our representatives, and I also want to give a shout out to Rondrell for doing such a wonderful job with the Cracker Barrel. He deserves a round of applause for that. Our question, what bill or bills do you wish would have passed this session but have yet to be or will not be passed?
Sure. I just jump at this because, I had a number of bills that I introduced, and some I knew were going to have to be longer term, and others I kind of had hoped maybe would. We have a primary care shortage in America. We have a primary care shortage in Indiana, and in rural settings especially, there's primary care shortages. And a big part of that is because individuals who are graduating from medical schools specialize. It could be orthopedics, like knee replacements or cardiology, and that we need those specialists, and they do it because they make more money. But what happens is it's continuing to lead to a shortage of primary care or family care docs. I 100% with all my heart and soul believe that we need to empower our advanced practice registered nurses to be able to be full-fledged on their own to be able to be our primary care providers. And if we do that, then we will see a flourishing of access to medical care. The Indiana Medical Association is fighting it big time, and they're a pretty powerful group. They're a well-funded group. But I'm going to be introducing that bill and working it every year because I believe in our advanced practice registered nurses, and I want to give a real shout out to the programs out of Indiana State and St. Mary of the Woods College. They're the ones who kind of flagged it. They were doing a student public policy outreach project, and that's when I first began to learn and do a deep dive on this. So I'd say that's probably my number one bill.
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Leah, we got a bill on second reading on Monday that basically it deals with craft flower, marijuana, basically. And I think Bruce might know more about it. It came through his committee, I believe. But I tell you, and I get some people that are for that, and some people are for medical marijuana. And I've always said I'm open to that discussion on medical marijuana. And I've got a buddy out in Colorado that needs medical marijuana, and he uses it because of all of his injuries from basketball playing. And but we're going to have that discussion possibly if it gets called down on Monday, and see what happens this week on that. But I do get people that inquire about that. They want to legalize it here, and then some people that don't. And so it's still on the radar here this coming week. So I can't think of the bill number right offhand, but it's on second reading come Monday.
Well, if I could, I might share a little bit of detail on that bill that Bob's referring to. That came through the Commerce and Economic Development Committee. And one of the things that I run into, in fact, I was in Walmart in Linton, I don't know, a week and a half ago or so, and a friend of mine came up to me and he said, man, I sure hope we legalize recreational marijuana. He said, look at all of the tax dollars that we're losing. But actually, if you look at, and I can send it to you if I can get your email from anybody that wants it. But if you look at the problems that the states are having that in particular have legalized recreational marijuana, the biggest problem they're having is that it truly is the addiction level. And like in Colorado, they say that one of the biggest problems they're having, and I've got a report on that I was reading, is that the students are sitting out in the parking lot before school, basically smoking marijuana or doing the marijuana gummies or whatever before they go into school. Basically, the people showing up for work is radically diminished because people that are missing work. And so I don't believe that there's a right way of doing a wrong thing. I will always oppose at least the recreational side of it. And my biggest concern with the medical side of it is that, and I've received numerous statements along these lines, is that that's often used as the stepping stone to go into the recreational side of it. Sorry.
All right. Anyone else?
Sure. I'm going to just say I-70 again, Project Lifesaver, and also I've been trying to pass Project Lifesaver for about 5 years now. But I was thinking about the cannabis talk, and all my surveys, 80% or more are in favor of medical cannabis in Indiana. Quite frankly, we're just an island and we're losing money. You know, we always talk about money and ways to raise money, ways to cut money. But, you know, we are having people just go all around the states around us, giving other states our money. So I guess that one.
I just want to say real quickly, I think we started off with 1,400 bills, like about right. Got down to about 400 bills. And what I've seen is a lot of good ideas, and even Senator Good said something about it. A lot of ideas you start with, and I'm noticing, because this year I could not introduce any legislation because I was sworn in after the deadline to introduce bills. But I've been searching for bills. But I also see many of our legislators here that are working on bills, and they don't get passed. I mean, if you look at it at 1,400 versus 400 left, you notice there's a huge number there that don't make it. But I believe that a lot of these legislators, they have ideas, and them ideas not going away. And I believe that they can work on them next year. And that's something I really I enjoy seeing. Just because it didn't happen this year, don't mean that bill can't be worked on and altered enough to get it passed in next year. So it's been interesting watching how that works.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Warner. I'm president of the Vigo County Teacher Association. I'd like to say whoever made the coffee, it's really good. This is the best meeting coffee I've had in years. So hats off to that. I'd like to begin with congratulating Mayor Sackman, who's not here, and Senator Good for their induction into Terre Haute South Vigo's Hall of Distinction. Yesterday's programs were a huge success due to the recipients of the Hall of Distinction Committee led by Lana Shuck. Congratulations. I'd like to thank you for your past and continued support of what was House Bill 382 and now part of Senate Bill 1002. Although it's unfortunate that we need this legislation, schools need alternative avenues to fund our schools. The traditional public schools of Indiana appreciate any monies that match or exceed the current rate of inflation or future rate of inflation, whatever it may be. We also appreciate the proposed Senate increases to Senate Bill 1001 that funds Indiana's 970,000 students that are taught by our traditional public schools.
Keep going.
Keep going. No.
The Senate version removed the unlimited family income support for private school vouchers. I have yet to enter a single conversation in which it is thought that school board across the state will be better if they have to declare a political position. Education is education. Research-based educational methods are just that. Research-based educational methods never refer to political party. I would encourage you to vote against any legislation that tries to associate school board candidates with political party. Could you please explain your concerns or support for any of the impacts on public education with various bills proposed that deal with funding and/or school board races, please?
Go ahead.
Sure. Well, it's great to see you, Mr. Warner, yesterday, and appreciate getting to see the planetarium again. I hadn't been in there, in a long
Thanks for taking the time to do that.
Appreciate that. The Senate version of the budget bill, and we got 2 more weeks to try to get this thing squared away. It increases K through 12 tuition support by $870 million over the biennium. That's about a 2% increase year over year. I think where this property tax bill is landing, both Vigo County government as well as the Vigo County School Corporation will both see increases, while 2/3 of homeowners across the state of Indiana will see a decrease in their 26 property tax bill compared to 25. And with regard to, when I was walking all around Terre Haute South High School, y'all have done a phenomenal job of maintaining that building, but I believe with all my heart, our high schools, we either need newly constructed high schools or significantly renovated high schools. We have awesome teachers, we have awesome kiddos, we are an awesome community. We need to have the absolute best school facilities. Last but not least, I had initially voted for the partisan school board issue because individuals would still have an opportunity to run as an independent. As it's made its way through the legislative process, it has gotten more complicated, more convoluted, more confusing, and I still sort of reserve the hopefully privileged to probably wait until the final seconds to cast my vote, but I'm leaning against it now. It's just gotten crazy.
I'm going to go ahead and piggyback on Greg. 2 things. One, he's done an amazing job of Bill 382 in fighting for new high schools. There's not one way to get a bill through, and as he said, it's not the best way, but to keep it alive and put it on 1002, it's just another tool in the toolbox. Because as he said, talk about economic development tool. People don't want to live in Terre Haute who have high school kids from out of town. They'll come, they'll work here, and they'll leave. We need high schools that represent what a fantastic community we have. So we have to do everything we can for that. I believe in the Senate version of the budget, they dropped virtual funding to 70%.
It did, yes.
Okay, so I believe strongly that if you're a virtual student, you shouldn't get the same as 100%, where you have to have buildings, electricity, plumbing, cafeteria, transportation. So we passed it out of the House with, I think it was 100% funding, and the Senate dropped it to 70, so I'm interested to see where that's going to land. And the school boards, I've been against it the whole time. So many reasons, but I know I have about 30 seconds left, especially because of the Hatch Act. You know, if you're a federal employee, I talked about Crane, there's 3,800 people that work at Crane, and they can't run for school board if this bill passes simply because of where they work. So the bill now is you have to declare dependent, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or leave it a blank space. But if the 5 of us were on the ballot and one of us puts Democrat or Republican, then anyone who is a federal employee cannot run for school board. It just eliminates them. So those are the reasons I'm against the partisan school board.
Aaron, Mary Jane Elmore, is she one of the
Yes.
people?
Yes, she is.
I just,
MJ, sorry, yeah.
MJ. Yeah, I just got her Distinguished Hoosier Award signed by the governor's office yesterday. So I told Dave Collins, my friend, who told me about this a week and a half ago, that I just got it yesterday, and I won't be able to get it in my possession until come Monday, and so I'm going to give it to him next week, and then he's going to frame it and send it to MJ, and what a fascinating story about her.
Oh, she's a rock star.
Incredible, yeah. And let's see, so the school board, I can't think of the number it was, but J.D. Prescott from Randolph County, he's a sponsor of that bill, and he changed it around. So he put, he did add, whether you want to put down if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or just leave it blank. It leaves up to the individuals what he or she wants to put on that. So it's, and I voted for it. And we can allow the people make that decision when it comes to that time. So, and this was discussed back in January when Senator Rod Bray and Senator Bassler and I were down at Owen County, and it was discussed. And Derek Morgan, who's a school board member there in Spencer Owen Community Schools, he was, he said he's a Democrat. He said, but he told us, he said to me and Senator Bray that unfortunately there is politics in schools. And I hate to even say that, but it really is. And so we're allowing the people to make that decision. And I know your current president of your school board, Stacy Killian, is she here by any chance? She's not here? Okay. Well, I remember 5 years ago or so, she when she announced that she was going to run for school board, she did it right in front of the Vigo County Democrat headquarters down here. And so in other words, she wanted everybody to know that she was a Democrat, and that was all fine and legal and all that stuff. But I think the people out there, they would like to know. And I tell you what, the people ought to do their own research. I think whether this person or that person they'd want to vote for school board. So, I think it's very, very important to have good people on that. And I never thought of it as a Democrat or Republican. I get out there and try to find out who they are and so forth and that type of thing before I go to the voting booth.
I just want to say I'm on election committee. That bill came over from the Senate, and we ended up working on that because we thought it would be better, especially passing in the way it was, where it made the option Democrat, Republican, other, or leave blank. So it made it better, made it more accessible. I think that it is another tool. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's another. We all have our beliefs and our values and different, and it affects, I believe, school board decisions sometimes. And I think that it's a good bill. It's not perfect. No bill hardly ever is, but at least it gave everybody an option even not even do anything if they didn't want to. So that's where it stood with me.
Well, actually, I've in the past always been opposed to the basically the party version of the school board bill where you name your party. And then I got to looking at the figures. In fact, J.D. Prescott shared those with me. And quite frankly, the ISTA has been, they say, well, we want nonpartisan school board elections. They say that, but that's not what they practice. When you look at the contributions that they've made in school board races, the radical amount of the money was going to Democrats. I mean, it was, I could be wrong on this, 80-90%, something like that. And I know in many of my state rep races, I would have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent against me simply because I was a Republican. So the bottom line is whether the ISTA wants to admit that they're opposed to school board elections. What it appeared to me as I started looking at the numbers is they're saying, okay, we don't want you as a legislator to have the right to basically make school board elections or to, for people to have to list their party. But if we want to do that as an organization, then by golly, we're going to do that. And so I thought, okay, I don't believe what they're saying, that they're not interested in partisan politics, because if you don't, if you don't agree with us, just follow the money. And so the bottom line is I ended up voting for that bill, and I feel like it was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. All right, and that concludes, I believe, our sponsor questions, and so we're going to move now to our public comment question. And like we had our sponsors, we're going to have you line up here at the podium and stretch that way so that we're not facing the camera. Same rules go for the sponsors as do for the public. Not all legislators are required to respond. We're asking that there be one question.
Hello, I'm Bill Verdine.
Hold on one second. I'm doing my teacher thing where I wait until the room is kind of quiet so that I can say the rules at this point, because we're still technically in the Cracker Barrel session. All right, yeah.
My name is Bill Verdine.
One second. I see where teachers get that from. That's kind of cool. All right. I have a couple more rules I got to get through, and so we got to make sure everybody hears this so that I don't have to repeat it when people get up here. One question per individual. If you have more than one question, please ask the remaining question during the meet and greet time if we have one. And questions should be for all legislators. So if your question is for one legislator only, i.e., Rondrell, why did you do blah, 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 please wait until the end of the session to ask that one question for that one legislator. We have been a little lax on our timing, which we're trying to get through it, but we have a lot of people, so I will be a little tighter. So please just go with the flow if we can, and let's get through all of these. All right, sir, thank you for your patience. Please say your name and ask your question.
My name is Bill Verdine. I was a locomotive engineer for 43 years, and I lobbied the State House for 19. I was a state health and safety officer. I've been trying to get to one of these meetings for 2 years, but it would be nice if I put it in my calendar more often. But anyhow, the reason why I'm here, a couple of years ago, I worked with the city of Terre Haute on a railroad crossing. Currently in the state of Indiana, you have over 6,000 grade crossings. When I was working, I would call the Indiana Department of Transportation Rail Division, tell them about a crossing. That crossing, they would go out and inspect it. When I was up on Locust Street, I don't know whether you guys remember how bad that was there by Bush Restaurant. I tried to get them, the Indiana Department of Transportation, to come out and look at that. And that guy told me, we don't do that anymore. Now think about that. You have 6,000, especially you, Mr. Representative Borders. You've got how many down to Jasonville? I mean, that's where I worked all the time.
Down by Ladder Yards.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you need to just pick up the phone, call the Indiana Department of Transportation, ask for the rail division and say, if I have a railroad crossing and it is absolutely despicable, are you going to do anything about it? And they will tell you no. You know how I got the Locust Street fixed? I had to call the Federal Railroad Administration, and they met me at the crossing and looked at the crossing.
Okay, so I'm going to need you to form into a question for the legislators, please.
That's all I was doing, was notifying them that, Representative.
Yeah. Bill, thank you for that comment. My wife and had dinner with a couple from Sullivan last night, and my buddy said, he said, Bob, this railroad up here down by Shelburne on Highway 41, we're down to 1 lanes now, coming and going, because it's so terrible. But it's been that way for quite some time. And so I said, Ed, I'm going to get a hold of NDOT, the rail division, and see what the heck's going on. I said, I think that's in your district. I don't know if you've had people call about that, but
I actually haven't.
But anyway, so I thank you for your comment on that.
I just wish you all would call, because I was flabbergasted. I said, buddy, I've done this for 19 years. And I went to a guy named Chuck Smoot, and they had different parts of the state where they inspected railroad crossings. So now we're to the point to where
Okay, again, we're
they
kind of getting
won't
into like a
even-
back and forth. If any other legislators.
they
would
won't
wanna-
even go out and inspect the crossing. So you guys need to do something, find out what's going on.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
What I might
Go ahead,
respond to
Bruce.
that. Actually, Matt Ubelor is now over roads and transportation. What's his title? But nonetheless, we had served with him in the General Assembly. We can contact him and see, what the best route is to. And so we appreciate. I mean, the bottom line is, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we at least know, one of the folks that we think can deal with that. So we'll make a call on
It
that.
would be nice for the state of Indiana to have say in grade crossings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and could we, if I can get your number afterwards, I would like to do that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
Oh, did you have?
Yeah,
yes.
I was just
Senator
going to
Gray.
say, the old lore that Dillinger never would seek to rob a bank in Terre Haute, because of the trains. I was late here because of being railroaded. We all experience it. And couple of things, just like, the guarantees in life, death and taxes. I would say one more, dealing with the railroads, even at the federal level. And a lot of this requires a federal intervention. They're very, very difficult to work with. They've been difficult to work with since the Transcontinental Railroad went right across the United States, across Native American lands and lands of homesteads and communities. Very, very difficult. But we should not cease to put pressure on them. I'll quickly mention the city of Lafayette, about 40 years ago, began a massive railroad relocation project because it was the same situation as Terre Haute. And there's no reason why our great community can't lay the groundwork for something along those lines. So much like we need a third lane for I-70, I think we just need to continue to work on ways to, frankly, relocate the rail lines that interrupt our quality of place, here in Terre Haute.
All right, thank you. And sir, you can save your comment for at the end of the session because we have to move on to the next question. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Sarah Dillon. I'm representing the Indiana Green Party. My question, and this is for a future year, idea for future sessions. Money in politics flows all over, especially state, local, federal. What's your opinion on trying to pass a law that would allow, among other election reforms, public financing of elections?
All right, I'll go. That'd be great. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but that would be great. So I don't know if you've just followed the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Over $100 million for one seat. And the amount of money that we all have to raise to campaign is a lot, and it's continuous. I don't know how you go about that, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was just recalling back the last congressional primary, and there was a ton of money from outside of Indiana poured in, and there's just no magical answer to it. You're right, there's a lot of money going from all sorts to all sorts of candidates and causes, but we have this thing called the First Amendment, and how do you get messages out? And to me, it's sort of an unfortunate aspect of being engaged in public service. But generally speaking, again, by and large in Indiana, we get things pretty right, but it's not perfect.
Sarah, like what Senator Good said about the First Amendment, I'm thinking back of several years ago when I ran the second time in 2010. My opponent was Bianca Gamble, and she raised $420,000 against me. And of course, in return, we raised $480,000. So that was $900,000 for that seat, and that was 15 plus years ago, which I think is just crazy, to be honest with you. Senator Kyle Walker in Indianapolis, he told me last month that in his race, it's over $1 million that he has to raise just to retain his seat there in the Senate. So depending on where you're at, and I know, Bruce has had some primaries and stuff, and people raise money, and so forth, but going back to the First Amendment, I don't know how we can stop that, and we'll see.
Well, ultimately, the bottom line, I'm assuming that in looking at public funding of races, then you would be looking at doing away with any private contributions, and so I would be opposed to that if that was the situation that you're proposing, is that races be publicly funded and no private money go into it. Because the bottom line is, if somebody does have, every group that's here today, that's represented here today, has most likely contributed to races based on their beliefs and causes, and that's fair. We realize that, and so I happen to be what you would call a strong pro-lifer. Well, there are pro-life groups that people that have the same sentiments that I do that contribute to candidates who believe in their values, and so I really do believe that again, if you were to do public funding and then eliminate private funding as a result of that, I think what you would be doing is you would be taking away the voice of people on both what they would say the left side of the issue and the right side of the issue. And I think that would be, it's like several have mentioned already, that would certainly be a violation of the First Amendment, our free speech rights. And then one of the ways that we are heard is through contributing to candidates that have a similar value system that we have.
Right. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for what you do for us every month. My name is Ann Dorazio. I am the chairman of the Labor and Industry Committee of the Greater Terre Haute NAACP branch. And I want to tell you that, as you all probably know, that thousands of workers are killed and injured on the job every year. But there is an event that was invented in 1990 to commemorate the signing of OSHA. It is on April the 28th, internationally recognized, our celebration, very solemn, memorializing the area workers who have been injured on the job and killed, is April 27th. My question is, for your consideration, will you stand with us, with the workers, with Mayor Sackman, with the ISU president, to come to that event? I have flyers which I will distribute to you. Thank you very much.
I'll go first. I went last year, and it's a great event. It is nonpartisan. It's a great event. I unfortunately will be out of the country, so I cannot attend, but thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, I first thank you for flagging, and I'll just say this to anybody. If I get invited to something, I think we all do. We really try to be there. A lot of times, somehow we don't, inadvertently don't get invited to something. So thank you for flagging it. OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Act, am I getting that right? Absolutely. We should have that. We should celebrate it. We should be thankful and protect our workers. Part of the overall trade drama that we're all watching at the federal level, a big part of that is, when our workers are competing with workers in other countries, there's no OSHA in China. There's no OSHA in some of these other countries that undercut prices. And so I am proud of our American workers, and I appreciate you inviting us to the event, and I'll do everything I can to be there.
Thank you very much.
I will comment real quick.
Go ahead, yes.
I will say I do support that. As far as from years of working in powerhouses and on construction jobs and different things, I've always said, and it's been a common term, they say that most of the laws of this is written in blood. And it's sad that is the case when something happens and we react, and therefore a law is created. And in the business I've been in, I've always been very proactive as why can't we stop these things before they ever happen? And be creative. When something happens in one place, we usually send it out and say it's a possibility it might happen in another place. But I do want to say I do support that in years of working in the construction business and powerhouses, that OSHA has been very important to preserving and maintain the safety that we need.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. My name's Nathan Myers, and I wanted to ask you about an amendment on HB 1002. And I understand that this amendment, I think, has actually been dropped from the bill, but I still wanted to ask about it because I think it gets to a larger issue. So the particular amendment I was concerned about was one that would do a few things, some of which would be, it would drop the requirement that teachers be trained in social emotional learning, and it would also remove the evaluation of social, emotional, and behavioral functioning from the responsibilities of a school psychologist. So I understand, it's my understanding that that amendment has been dropped. However, I'd still like to ask about your views on that particular amendment, where you stood on that, because I think it gets to the larger issue of the need to uphold standards for special education in the state, given the federal protections that seem to be on the downslope.
Sure. Yes.
Sure. You're right on both aspects of your point in the question. It was initially not in the legislation. To remove it was in the legislation, and then we got that language stripped in a second reading amendment. Sorry for the technicalities, folks, but it's back in. It's in there for the training and the emotional support and learning aspects. So I was very concerned about that, why that was initially not included, but it's back in.
I just learned that it was from you, so thank you. I'm really glad that it's back in. We need it. You know, we need to protect our most vulnerable. We need to do everything we can for social emotional learning, and of course put that in with mental health. So it's all connected, and you know, we've got a lot of problems that we need to do all we can to preserve those things. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Flo Evinger with Concerned Citizens Against Wabash Valley Resources. First of all, I want to say I never would have attended a Cracker Barrel session, even really concerned about my government, until I become involved in a cause. I have learned so much about the government of Indiana and how it works, whether I agree or disagree with how it works. So, Tanya, I appreciate your vote no for 557. Mr. Good, same thing, voting no for Senate Bill 457. And Tim Yokin, voting no for 457. If you don't remember what 457 is, it is moves fee revenues collected for carbon dioxide transmission pipelines to the general state fund. That means they can use it for whatever they want to use it for. I'm here to ask you to protect us citizens from Wabash Valley Resources and companies like them who are trying to use our communities as dumping grounds for their supercritical waste. Currently, the only 2 Class 6 wells for carbon capture and sequestration in the United States are at ADM facilities in Decatur, Illinois. They are currently shut down because of their leaks and unintended plume migration. They said it wouldn't happen. Wabash Valley Resources says it doesn't work that way and to believe in the science. Well, this is the science. South Dakota recently passed a bill, HB 1052, that prohibits the use of eminent domain for carbon dioxide pipelines. They changed course and reversed their directions about carbon sequestration. Their train had left the station, but they chose to reverse the decision and protect their citizens. I want you, our legislators, to stand up for us the way South Dakota, Illinois, Louisiana, and California legislators stood for their people. We ask that you work together on moratorium on carbon capture and eliminate eminent domain rights for CO2 pipelines. Could you tell me where you are in this process?
Sure. Again, I have to say this every time. I wasn't in the legislature when that legislation went through. It was at the last Cracker Barrel where the South Dakota legislation relating to eminent domain was raised. And I will, when this session is over, I'm going to do a deeper dive and look to introduce similar legislation in Indiana. Eminent domain has always troubled me.
Yes.
And we were just talking about the railroads before. And I don't know, just outside of a national security interest, and even in that situation, I would probably say maybe even in wartime, I mean, it's just eminent domain just troubles me.
Yes.
And so I'll take a look at how they did it in South Dakota and see the applicability here in Indiana. But I appreciate you all raising it. Yeah.
Especially for public gain. It's one thing put a highway through railroad or something, but when it is specifically for private gain.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Janet Stroll, Ciantio. I'm with Concerned Citizens Against Wabash Valley Resources. Thank you all for being here. I'm here to talk to you about protecting our community, water, and environment from Wabash Valley Resources, who want to use eminent domain to take our property and pump millions of metric tons of supercritical CO2 under our homes. First, I want to thank Representatives Pfaff and Yoakum and Senator Good for standing for our community, voting no on Senator Glick's bill, SB 457. Thank you for working to protect our communities. My question is for Representatives Heaton and Borders. You were the only people here who voted yes on the bill. Could you explain to us why you voted yes on Senate Bill 457?
I'm looking it up right now. Jan, did you say?
Yes.
So that was signed by the governor on the 3rd of April, correct? Is that the bill you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there was a bill that Tanya and I voted for in Ways and Means on 1579 that dealt with that as well, but it didn't go anywhere at the first half. Didn't get out of Ways and Means as far as that goes. But as far as 457, I'll take a look at it, and Bruce, if you looked at it, I don't know what action.
Yeah. Well, basically, what I'm looking at on the bill is that, hang on, let me go back to that. It's just on a partial summary. The bill requires an applicant for a carbon dioxide transmission pipelines certificate to comply with certain guidelines adopted by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and then if they meet certain criteria, basically then they are exempted from obtaining a certificate of authority, from having to do that as long as they comply with those guidelines. So it wasn't a removal of any, it wasn't a removal of complete guidelines. It was basically placing them under the Utility Regulatory Commission. So I don't view it as necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it does have some safety rails involved with it as well. I mean, it's I think it has some, it has some positive features as well to the bill.
Yeah, Jan, it looks like it directs the DNR to establish and issue a permit to allow that. Okay, so, And then there's oversight on that as well. So that's, there is oversight as far as that deals with. But, I talked to, was it your daughter? Or your...
My cousin Susan
Your cousin Susan, yeah, about that.
And her daughter.
For years,
Whitney.
and Whitney as well, yeah.
But that excludes Wabash Valley Resources.
All right, thank you very much. Next question.
Good morning. My name's Carl Holzapfel, concerned citizen. I actually came to talk about one thing, but something else has come up. I have still not heard good rationale for partisan school board elections. I know there have been a lot of bad reasons, but I have not heard a good one yet. So that aside, 2 months ago when I was here, it was brought up, should we tax sugar? I don't know if that's practical or not, but I do know that we should charge sales tax on Kit Kat bars. They are exempt from sales tax. There is, I see absolutely no reason for that. So that's my comment. Oh, I do, there is, since I haven't used my minute, SB 173, I think, is to eliminate tax on feminine hygiene products. I don't know where that stands, but it's crazy to charge sales tax on that and not on Kit Kat bars.
Did you need an answer, or are you good? Okay.
Sounds like that was a comment. So.
We have comment.
You can comment on that, yes.
I want to comment on that because I think that, not really that, but I think that we need to make the public more aware. I'm trying to find a bill. I'm trying to find something to make a difference in people's lives. And I thought that, we've changed so much from, you go get you a can of, not a can of pop, you go get you a soft drink at the drive-through window, and it was usually, it used to be that big, and now it's this big. And the changes that we've had in society in our sugar intake, I mean, whether you like it or not, I mean, I always remember growing up, I didn't want to drink water at home because I'd go get a pop, that was a treat. Now it's like, I should be drinking water at home, but the amount of it has changed. In my mind, I'm trying to think, how can we make people more aware of really what you're doing? The sugar intake of people today has really affected people. I mean, it's affected our society, and it's really, it's a situation, and I'm trying to find something, on a bill or something that I can make people more aware of really what they're doing. It's not so much the big drink that you're drinking, it's the effect that it really has on people, and it's phenomenal when you look at society and the way it's affected us, and how we as a society can get more aware and more alert to really what we're taking in and the detrimental effects it has on our families and everyone. So I'm looking in that area.
Carl, why Kit Kat? What about Snicker bars and Hershey bars and all of that?
That's fine.
You just showed up Kit Kat. I didn't know if you were a pet point. Okay, all right.
Now, my understanding is, and I'm probably wrong, if a product contains flour, it is tax exempt. If it does not, it is not tax exempt.
Does Snickers have flour? Snickers have flour?
Very interesting.
Well, actually, I might share, I thought, okay, I'm going to Google this. Here's an article from a site called Going Concern. It says, in Washington State, a Kit Kat bar is not considered candy for sales tax purposes. So I'm not sure, but it does mention that Reese cups are considered candy, and so I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to dig into that. But
we are getting dangerously close to like a candy war situation. That is very interesting, but I think it's something that I think a lot of us can do some research.
I think he was sent here by the Kit Kat lobbying group. Is probably
that's
what's
fair.
going on.
But unless somebody has something kind of pertinent to add to it.
Carl, to your right is Senator Young's assistant there. You can talk to her about that. Talk to the feds about that.
I believe it's a state sales tax, not a federal.
No, but this is also in Washington State. It says state sales tax.
All right. Next question.
All right, I'm a teacher at Terre Haute South, also very proud of our graduate, Greg Good, who was inducted yesterday into the Hall of Fame. But I'm interested in actually what started out, I feel like, to be a very good bill put forward by Bruce Borders, protecting teachers and any mandated reporter. I'm sorry, if you want to look it up, it's Senate Bill 326, and I think in a buffet of stuff you guys have to deal with, I think this is just a green bean. But I think originally, Representative Borders, what you were trying to do is protect mandated reporters if we should have child pornography on our phones or computers for the purpose of reporting, and I would like to thank you. Every little bit of safety, as long as we have reported it, and that's why we have it, it protects us. Thank you. But there is an amendment to that now that states that a government entity may not organize or host an obscene performance or fund an obscene performance. I'm so sorry, I'm going to finish my sentence. Thank you, Robbie. And it doesn't really specify what obscene means. And I wanted to know from all of you, because that's too general. That's just too general it's scary. Like if there's cursing in a school play, or if there's a transgender girl wearing a low-cut gown with all of her friends, all of the other women in a choir concert. Like, it's scary because it's not specified what an obscene performance means. And I just wondered, especially Bruce Borders, but all of you, would you fight to get that amendment, that extra little bit taken off, or is that even possible? Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, that passed out of the House on Monday, the 31st of March.
Okay.
Okay, and everybody up here, including Tanya, voted for that bill, 326. So she was one of 7 Democrats that voted for that, and I appreciate that. So.
Oh, yeah, that was the vote that I regret, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, I'll talk after you.
Well, thank you for voting for it in the first place, though. But anyway, yeah, that was some of that language came from Representative Borders' Bill 1669 that's put into 326. But yeah, we voted on that, and I think it was like 74-20 and so forth. But Representative Andrew Ireland had that bill. So I don't know if it was going to be concurred or dissent on and then change it around in the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure where that's at right now.
I'm sure it's complex, and thank you for the protection for the teachers.
So I will say on that bill, that amendment sparked a lot of controversy, and basically the author, I thought it was Zimmerman, whoever was speaking on the House floor, said this is an easy vote because this isn't happening right now. He's like, Ireland. Ireland, thank you. So in the amendment, it was the government can't host obscene performances, which they do not now. The government does not pay for any obscene performances. They don't support them. So I believe that's why I voted for it, because of the teacher protection language in the first part of the bill.
Right.
But yeah, that was definitely the one that I regret. But anyway.
So the obscene part, that was an amendment over in the, okay, yeah. So we haven't, I don't know what's going to happen when it goes back over to the Senate. But, I can't define obscenity, right? I think it was a Supreme Court justice who once said, but I know it when I see it, kind of a thing. Well, that's, how do you make public policy, around that? So I appreciate you raising it, and I'll look into it,
I think that's it. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for all being here. And I did want to add, it is City Community Cleanup Day, which is why probably our city officials aren't here today. So my name is Marie Thies. I'm speaking this morning to the budgets being discussed and proposed at the State House and their impact on communities. Investing in our communities should be more than looking at cost. No matter if it's our schools, families, government services, nonprofits like the one I serve, in recovery efforts through advocacy and peer coaching, funds for health departments, maybe even talking about sugar a little bit through the health departments. We all are part of a puzzle. And if pieces get damaged or go missing, the successful picture cannot be made in the end. My question for all of you is, what is your biggest concern for your constituents and our communities with proposed budgets as you see them now? Are you concerned we'll see the same impact as we did years ago under Governor Daniels when we did changes to taxes and we saw increases in local options and sales tax across the state for counties?
So if I may, yeah, so thank you. The Senate released its version of the budget this past week, and up to this point, a lot rests on the upcoming revenue and Medicaid forecasts. That's coming this upcoming week. And that's when we're going to have a little greater confidence of how much money do we have to work with. We know this. We have significantly less because of the past federal stimulus money is no longer available. But to your great question, Marie, a couple of pieces in this Senate budget that I'm proud of. While we've had to increase some eligibility requirements around Medicaid, we're actually putting in an increase of $2.1 billion toward Medicaid services, and that includes those services, money for parents who have dependents with complex medical needs. Those are the individuals who are first and foremost on my mind. $100 million over the biennium for community mental health. Again, I've mentioned this before. You know, I'm the son of the former CEO of our wonderful Hamilton Center, Galen Good, and community mental health services and addiction services are near and dear to my heart. And then $100 million continued investment in our regional and community public health, because I think those are all aspects of making sure that we have a great community and a great region here in West Central Indiana.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Marie, on the, I'm sorry, but Senate Bill 1 and that whole issue and so forth. Well, the thing of it is, and I've told this to people, and I think most of you know this, that property taxes are local tax. It stays right here. So the state doesn't receive any money from property taxes. But we're going to allow the locals to, depending on, the lit and the local income tax, that if they need to raise revenue, that they can do that if they want to. So, I don't know if anybody's here on the council, but...
Former.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk.
So I know that's probably
what your thoughts are after
yeah.
that, because sometimes these locals don't want to raise taxes on your money out here because they typically like to blame the state. But again, we don't receive any money from local property taxes. So, but it's going to be, and then that gets into the business personal property tax too. I remember 10 or so years ago, former Mayor Duke Bennett was belly aching about, that issue and so forth, and it's going to, kill us, for funding and so forth. But we're dealing with that, but we're backing off as far as, not cutting it completely off. One thing about the governor, what he wanted to do, he wanted to make some changes and so forth, but we're making changes as well, but we're trying to bring everybody at the table and discuss that these next couple weeks and so forth.
Well, one of the things that I'll mention, just by the very number on the bill, the Senate Bill 1 that came over from the Senate, we knew that our biggest priority this year, at least, again, based on the bill number, and of course on the House it's 1001, the budget, but coming over from the Senate would be to protect people's abilities to keep their own homes, their own farms, their own businesses. And and it's all, you can't really divide one from the other because it's all part of the equation, and like Bob had just mentioned as well. Basically, the property taxes, those go towards local units of government. Now, one of the things that I will mention on that is that right now, local units of government can increase the local option income tax, or the LIT as we call it, but what is it, 3.4%, I believe, is the maximum that it can be done. Well, in this bill, it drops it down to 2.9%, and that's a combination of the local units of government. That could be like a local city, for example, also within a county, just like I live in Greene County. If the city of Jasonville wanted to adopt a local income tax, they could. And I think the limit on that is maybe 1.2%, and then the combination between the county and the cities within cannot exceed 2.9%, so you still have a protection for the property owners.
I think my biggest concern with SB 1, which is why I voted against it, it proclaims that it's going to save property tax owners money, which it will. There's no question. Between $200 and $300. Not this year, because, they're already out this year. But next year, $200, $300, and it shifts all the burden to the locals. So we're going to say now, businesses, you get a break, and now local income tax people that work, now the burden comes to you. So that's my problem with it. It is making it harder for the local communities. Yes, local control is nice, but at the same time, there's all kinds of guardrails against what they can and can't do. So my problem is, it's not a savings, it's just a shift. So I'm going to save 300 here, and locally I'm going to put out 350 here. So that's my biggest concern.
Thank you for all of you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Kevin Southwood. I'd like to make a suggestion. It's about the Medicaid cost, which is like $1 billion in the negative. You ought to have a program where you would give out like 5,000 or 10,000 people around the state like $125 a month, based on lower income, because healthy food costs 3 times as much as the horrible food. You would have people weigh in every month. If they don't gain no weight, or if they lost the weight, the next month they could go to various other places to get weighed in, but they could if they don't gain the weight, they would get an additional $125 a month for healthy food choices, and the legislature would have to see all these store items that's sold in the store. You would have to, what's healthy and what is contribute to weight loss. It would be probably about 15% of what's sold in the grocery stores, and that way you could even put like a green outline on the floor, and you can see all these green outlines with a magic marker below the shelves.
All right.
This is what's considered healthy food, and that's a trigger when people see this.
Okay. Do you have a specific question that you'd like to ask?
No, just a suggestion.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the suggestion. Does anybody have any comments?
I'll just make this one point. In 2021, Medicaid made up 15% of our state budget, and where the budget is lining up, and again, a lot rests on what happens with the revenue forecast, 22%. And so that translates in actual dollars that Medicaid state funding has doubled. The state portion of Medicaid has doubled in the last 4 years. And the fact of the matter is, Indiana, from a public health standpoint, is in the top 5 in our country in a lot of the worst health outcomes. Smoking and obesity and really lack of physical activity. So we just have to keep trying to create policies that will incentivize individuals to make healthy choices.
All right. Thank you very much.
Kevin, one thing I want to mention, that this past Tuesday we had that Senate Bill number 2, the Medicaid bill, and the sponsor was Brad Barrett from Richmond, and it passed out of the House bipartisan vote. But in the last few years, like Senator Good was saying, that we've had, I think it was around 400,000 more recipients towards, with Medicaid, and in the last 3 or 4 years. And so they're looking into that, and why did we have a big increase in the, during COVID, after COVID? And so that, that's why our budget deals with a few $billion more because of the increase in Medicaid. So, but we're going to try to work it out.
Well, I know that next year, when we come back here, and I come into the back of that room, and instead of a box of donuts, if there's a bowl of celery, I'm going to protest. But I know, Bob, no comments here. But, actually, though, on the Medicaid issue, the bottom line is that one of the things that began the plethora of growth in Medicaid had to do with COVID. I mean, it really was. In fact, there was actually an encouragement for people to jump onto Medicaid. And I know a lot of people that are on it now that probably would never have jumped on board had it not become, in essence, encouraged by the federal government. And so, but now that they're on it, they want to stay there because it's obviously cheaper to stay on that than to purchase their own private insurance. And so that's an issue, that we are dealing with as a state government. And it's it's one of the 800-pound gorillas in the room, not just the property taxes, but the Medicaid. And the bottom line is, if we do not deal with it today, in the future, what it will do is it will literally consume massive amounts of our budget, and forget growth in education, forget police, funding police, forget roads and highways and so forth. We've got to deal with Medicaid so it just doesn't continue chewing into everything else.
And I'm just going to say, private health care is pricey, and we have low wages in Indiana, so that contributes to this problem. Our healthcare system in the country is complicated, it's expensive, and we are trying to deal with the Medicaid problem, I understand that, but there are so many factors that go into this, you just cannot say point blank, people don't need to be on Medicaid anymore. We need to help the people that need it.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you very much. Okay, we are technically over time, so everybody that's in the line, this will be the end of the line with the people that are in line right now, and we're going to try to speed through all this, so I'll kind of be that person again where when time's up, I'll say time's up. Go ahead.
My name is Harley Eads. I am currently a student at ISU University, and I've always been worried about women's health and women's reproductive rights. And ever since 2023, my worries have always risen because of the banning of abortions in Indiana, which has increased the amount of unsafe abortions, which therefore increases the amount of deaths, which is about 68,000 women die per year due to unsafe abortions, and about 5 million deal with lifelong complications due to it. And I just wanted to ask if there were any plans to loosen up the restrictions, or just to try and get rid of the ban, or just opinions about loosening up the restriction abortion in Indiana. That's it.
Thank you.
Harley, is that your name, Harley? So as far as the four exclusions that we have on there, are you okay with that, though, aren't you?
About the medical reasoning?
Well, the life of the mother, rape and incest, and lethal fetal anatomy.
Yep.
So, and I had a couple of my colleagues in our caucus that still voted no, because they didn't want any exclusions whatsoever. But, that passed in the special, I think it was Friday, August the 5th, 2022, when it passed in our special session on that. So, but, and a lot of my colleagues, we, and Bruce is pro-life, I'm pro-life, and Tim, you might be, I don't know, but, and Senator and others, but it's something that we have a lot of people, a lot of constituents who feel that we did the right thing. And I respect your opinion, but we tried to address, the life of the mother, and at least had some exclusions on Senate Bill 1 in that special session in 2022.
I would like to say, I of course am pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice, and that's you can be both. That's okay. It is my body. I'm the only one up here who's given birth. I know the complications that arise. I know about rape, incest. I know about the life of the mother. And I believe it's a 10-week, it's 10 weeks, isn't it? Is that what we put in the bill? And I know I have 3 daughters, and I have a lot of teenagers. 10 weeks is not long enough. Sometimes you don't know you're pregnant. I'm a woman. I understand. Sometimes you don't know you're pregnant until 11 weeks. And then in Indiana, you don't have a choice. So as far as I understand, there are nothing going through to change any of the current laws.
Thank you.
I actually have a response to that as well. I just got this 3 days ago. This is a picture of my grandson who will be born in October. All right, he's a human being. All right, and the bottom line is he was unexpected. Our son Jordan and his wife Sarah, he was a bit of a surprise, but they're also excited about him as well. He is a life. He deserves a chance to live, and this is him.
Okay, next question. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Hi. Last fall, I said, since this was a budget year, you are going to be hearing from me every month. So here I am.
Can we get your name?
Shannon Giles, Tobacco Free Vigo. First, a couple of thank yous. We did get the heated tobacco products tax line removed from Senate Bill 453. Representative Prescott is my new favorite Republican. Sorry to the folks on the table, but he was the one who initiated it, so I gotta go with my guy right now. But you guys voted for it, so thank you very much to the rest of the Ways and Means Committee. And House Bill 1276, we removed the cigar smoking language. So those were 2 huge accomplishments, and thank you very much. Let's talk about the cigarette tax increase. We are not done with that yet. You have an opportunity to do it. It can be added in a second reading or in conference, but you guys are so concerned about the budget and reducing Medicaid costs. A $2 tax increase would lead 45,000 Hoosiers to quit smoking, add $356 million to the budget, and reduce our healthcare Medicaid costs by $795 million. Why would this not be something to do with all of your issues facing the budget?
I'll just keep talking. So, as a lone Democrat up here, every year, Ed Delaney gets up there and tries to get the $2 tax passed. Every year. And there's a different reason why we can't do it every year. So, I am absolutely for this. I'm not sure. I don't think we can do an amendment anymore. Monday's second reading amendments.
Second reading amendments, yeah, we could.
I'm just not sure with the vehicle, but my point is, it can still be talked about during conference committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, when was the last time there was an increase?
2009.
It's been a while on cigarettes, and I don't know if $2 is the magic number. I don't know what the magic number is, but I'm open to it. I've shared that with you before, provided that it has to go to health care, and it cannot be rated to fund a road or something else. So I'm open to it.
I'm okay with that.
Again, cigarette smoking is one of the primary culprits on all things health related, whether it's dental health or just overall health issues, and so I remain open to it. But I will say, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it done this year because there's a lot of resistance to it in general.
Shannon, there's a lot of, and I think Representative Path knows this, being Ways and Means, that we have several in our committee as well as in our caucus that want to do something to that. Now, the question is, how far up? $2 or $1 or whatever it may be.
We'll take anything at this point.
I know, and I agree with you. And then some people come along and says, well, let's tax alcohol too, while we're at it. And maybe we can talk about your thoughts on that. But anyway, yeah, it's something that, I remember we had the, the smoking ban in restaurants here, was that, about 12 years ago, 13 years ago?
2012,
so forth?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I remember Bruce Edelman from Bohannon's East came over and talked us against that. And
When we added the vaping
also-
ban, he said he wouldn't go back and change it if he could.
yeah,
He was so happy with the smoking ban now.
Was he? Well, and Bob Weemuth also, he came to me as well and that type of thing. And it was something where, and some people talked about, well, it's a freedom thing too. If you have 25 restaurants here and they're all non-smoking establishments and one of them over here that is, who's to say to the owner over there that, you have to do it or apply with the law and so forth? But
Because there's other people in the restaurant?
Yeah, but they all have the big sign that says, hey, be aware coming in here, you're going to receive secondhand smoke and so forth, that type of thing. But anyway, I'm glad that happened, and it's nice that you don't have to go get your clothes dry cleaned the next day after you've been in a restaurant. So, but thank you for being over there at the State House recently. I saw you over there, and we'll keep fighting it.
All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm not familiar with the tax that's on there. I think I tried a cigarette in second grade or something like that. But I think that the saying, they came a long way, baby, you remember that from years ago. And I think that when you look at society today, it has came a long ways in smoking, I think, in less. But we got a long way to go. And I would definitely be in support of that. I think that the big thing about doing a tax is having a tax, and then what do you do with that money? Being effective in reducing something, I think, could be the big question. How do you take that money and actually help reduce that?
Well, we have a $235 million trade deficit with a big tobacco company and what we spend on smoking cessation, so.
I'm just saying I would support it, and I'd like to know more about it. I would also, I think I've talked to several about the vaping issue.
Yep.
Space with youth, it's something that I'm looking into. I don't know what we can do, but I know it needs to be addressed. But no, I would support the increased sales tax on cigarettes.
Thank you.
All right.
Rondell, can I just one other, real quick?
Yes, sir.
Part of it, too, is, and maybe people are like, Greg, come on, you're just wordsmithing. It's not a tax. It's a user fee. And part of this is how you sell it here to some of my skeptical colleagues. But if somebody wants to, put that unhealthy product in his or her mouth, there's a user fee tied to it, and we're going to take those dollars and we're going to make sure that they're protected for what we need it for.
All right, and so let's go turbo time now, and let's motor through all this as quick as we can.
My name is-
And not every legislator has to answer every question, too. Go ahead.
My name is Jack Sternfeld. I was wanting to hear more about the state parks. You talked about the increase in the fees and about how that was going to be going to help emergency services serve the parks. I wanted to know if that was also going to go to the upkeep of the parks and if you had heard about any cuts to park funding due to the fact that we have no more house money to spend.
Well, actually, I spent 5 hours yesterday, 3 of it in Shakamak State Park, and then another couple of hours over at Redbird with members of the DNR, also the park manager, Ken Duguay. And the fee, I think David Hall, I believe that was one of his bills that he was looking at. One of the things that I found out yesterday, which I wasn't aware of, one of the members of this, well, in fact, Dan Bortner, the head of the Indiana State Parks, was with us as well. And he asked, he said, well, how are things, coming along? How do they come along this winter, Ken, as far as the, the roads and so forth? Because people still go in our state parks in the winter, and especially if it's a heavy snow day, just to see the trees and so forth. And what we found out, or what I found out in the conversations I had in that 5-hour period yesterday, is that a lot of times your counties or sometimes your close local cities or whatever will go ahead and allow the state parks that are nearby to them to come and pick up some salt and gravel and sand and so forth for the state park roads. And but a lot of times they may not have the spare change, so to speak, to buy that, but the cities allow them to do that. So that's one of the ideas behind the potential slight increase in fees, is that it will allow them to at least help fund their own way I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I'm truly trying to. But anyhow, that would allow them, again, for some of the things that they cooperate. And I know when I'll be real fast with this, when I was mayor of Jasonville, we would go out and jet rod out some of the sewer lines and so forth at Shakamak. We didn't charge them for that because, again, we looked at it as a great reciprocal relationship between the park and the city of Jasonville.
Yeah, on Dave Hall's bill, I voted for that, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that would generate for that park and for that community as far as public safety goes. But technically I have a little bit of Shakamak in my district, but McCormick's Creek is in my district, the whole park itself. But I'm still hoping for the $27.72 million in the budget that we passed, it would remain in there for the campground there in McCormick's Creek State Park, because 2 years ago the tornado just wiped it away, what it boils down to. And we kicked in $5 million 2 years ago to clean up the mess, so to speak. So we'll see how all this shakes out in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully a lot of that funding will be there in the end.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see y'all. Thanks for being here and letting us hear. My name is Bill Wilson. I want to correct something from the Brazil meeting you just had last time. We planned on coming, but we had an animal down and didn't get to make it. Anyway, Bob, you said, and I don't know if somebody misled you. I'm pretty sure politicians don't lie, but where I'm out on the highway out there to where I'm at, there's not one person there that is for that carbon, not one. And my neighbors are definitely 100% not for that. I cannot believe what I heard.
Well, were you there, Bill?
Okay, hold on.
I know
Hold
Rose
on.
Marie was there.
Pardon?
The lady behind you was
All right,
there.
we're going to stop. I'm stopping this conversation right here. Do you have a question for the entire dais right now, or is this specifically for Bob Heaton? Because then you can have it after this is done.
Okay.
Nope, because those are the rules that we've agreed on by this thing, if it's a thing. So we're going to agree by the respectful rules of this. Do you have a question for everybody up here?
I just want everybody to do what they can to stop this carbon, because we're trying to save the kids that can't vote, can't do anything about it, and we don't want this stuck in the water and destroy the water. These people over here at Wabash are burning plastic, manure, coke to make carbon. They're not pulling carbon out of the air. So what are you going to do about that? When you guys have bills that stacked up, name it, A, B, C, D. If D does not want, kick it out. Don't vote for the whole thing to get a snake bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I comment?
You may comment, yes.
I don't know if everyone knows about this, but in the Capitol, there's a HR bill in 1946 that's been in D.C. This is a 45Q Repeal Act of 2025, and it's by Representative Perry Scott, representative from Pennsylvania, to defund the funding for carbon sequestration. That's in the House. I don't know where it's went yet, but it is there. I'll let you know that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Editorials note, if you have an issue with my moderating, please feel free to reach out to the Vigo County Public Library. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name's Rosemary Scott. I would like to ask all of you the question about the meeting that is going to be held at the Vermilion County Courthouse. Let me refer to my notes. Actually, there's information sheets here. April 28th at 6 p.m. at the Vermilion County Courthouse in Newport. A little bit of a drive, but I think if you care about the citizens of this area and our whole state, actually our country, you will attend. This is to discuss a moratorium on CO2. We're all concerned, and the more people find out about this, the more they are afraid. My ears perked up several times today because we've been discussing health We've just been discussing safety. We've been invited to OSHA's anniversary because of healthcare, because of workers who've been killed on the job. I think y'all care about people, or you wouldn't be in these positions. Let's put some teeth behind that. Show up at this hearing. You can admit that you've learned more. You can say part of your vote was remorseful. But we need you to care. We need you to stop saying things like you've talked to the farmers and the farmers are okay with it. No, the farmers are not okay with it. And the fact that anybody who's been at these Cracker Barrels would allude to that and even call these people by name just means that they weren't listening. Please be listening now. Show up. Thank you.
I'll take this one. Rosemary, thank you. I have learned a lot since 2019 when this whole discussion started. But I will legitimately be out of the country April 28th, so I will not be there.
All right, thank you for all of your comments. That concludes our Cracker Barrel session. I don't know if we have time for closing statements.
Yeah, there's only like 10 days left in session, so
All right.
may not have much to...
So brief closing statement, if nothing else. Thanks to everybody for attending, but let's start with you, Senator Good.
I started my opening comments back in January when it was cold and icy. I said this, I want to end. I'm a former employee of this great organization, the Vigo County Public Library, and I just want to say thank you, Christy. You're going to be greatly missed here. Being a president or CEO or a leader of any great nonprofit entity is really, really hard work. Anything that goes wrong, right? Who gets the blame, right? And so I really respect you and appreciate you, Christy, and your entire team. And Rondrell, I love you.
Love you too.
And thank you so much. And I've tried to be a lot better and staying within my time.
Me too.
But then, thank you all. Thank you all.
Ron, he tells us all that.
No, thank you all for being here and for caring. It's an honor. It's an honor to serve and represent you.
Okay, so I just, of course, want to thank Christy and having this. I've been up here 7 years now, and you've been here the whole time, so I appreciate it. And thank you, Rondrell. But the bigger thing is to you guys, and I know we don't always agree, but thank you for being kind, courteous, and respectful. We all appreciate it. There are, as you can tell, lots of contentious issues. This job is not easy, but I, for one, really enjoy representing you, so thank you very much.
Well, yeah, thank you all for being here. About 5 years ago, down in Owen County, we have these legislative gatherings. They don't call them Cracker Barrels, but town halls. And Senator Bassler, Senator Bray, and I share Owen County. And I remember a lady came up to me 5 years ago, her and her husband, they were up in years, and they came up and thanked me for having these town halls. I said, well, yeah, we have them quite often, during session. She goes, well, we just moved here from Peoria, Illinois, and they never have these type of things over in Illinois, so we're thankful. And I said to her, I says, well, do you have grandkids going to IU or something? Is that why you moved down in this area? She says, no, we moved here because the state of Indiana, it's a good place to live. It's low taxes, and that's why we moved over here. So, but you just can't assume that we have these gatherings all the time, but some of my colleagues, they do not do this. And Christy, as you know, and others, I got buddies, and they say, well, maybe one time the whole session that they get together. And but I try to make it here as much as I can. But thank you all for being here and to being engaged and having dialogue about the issues out there, because they affects all of us and our kids and grandkids, and so we need to keep plugging away. So thanks for coming.
I just want to say thank you all for attending. I consider it an honor to be here. I believe it's a responsibility as an elected official to come and speak to the people, whether I agree or you agree or none of us agree. But we need that dialogue. I want to say a big thank you. I look forward to next year. Hopefully I'll be more informed, more educated on this process, and be more accessible to you all. I also want to mention that next year I will be having a meeting here at 9 o'clock in the morning that. If you want to talk to me personally, you can do that also. And I just want to get closer to you. I think government, the more we work together, the more we can do great things. Thank you for attending.
You know, it's, we were talking about local government spending, and having served as a mayor of the city of Jasonville for 8 years, I can still remember after I was done serving as a mayor that we had moved out into the county, and you can't be mayor of a city when you live out in the county, but the bottom line was I had a friend that was a mayor who would ask me, he said, Bruce, should I accept this? If you remember, under the Clinton administration, they had what they called the COPS grant, Consolidated Omnibus, whatever, I forget what the acronym stood for, but the bottom line was they were going to be given money to hire additional police officers based on the size of the city for a period of 3 years. And so he said, I can hire 3 additional police officers with that COPS grant. And I said, well, you know, Mayor so-and-so, who is a friend of mine, I said, if you can't afford them today, what are you going to do 3 years from now whenever that grant is no longer in existence? And I said, and keep in mind, that's still taxpayer dollars that's paying for that. Well, nonetheless, he went ahead and hired those police officers. Unfortunately, they're still serving. Nothing against them. I don't blame them for taking the jobs. But now that particular city is struggling because they're saying, well, you know, we need the ability to raise taxes to get into the taxpayers' pockets. No, you didn't need the ability to raise taxes to get into the taxpayers' pockets. What you needed to do is you needed to exercise financial discipline and not hire police officers that you couldn't afford without a 3-year grant, because there is going to be a period of time where that's going to end. And so what I would say is that the bottom line is that whether it be the state government, whether it be a county government, whether it be a town government, the bottom line is that look at the taxpayer and realize those are the people that are paying those bills, all right? And keep them in mind. And so I really, really, really detest all the time the taxpayer being looked at as a piggy bank to be busted open and to get into their wallets. So thanks a lot.
All right, that concludes our Cracker Barrel session. One more, if we could have a picture with Christian Kaburt.
I'm gonna say something else too, sorry, real quick. I couldn't say this at the beginning because I didn't want you to get up and leave. I wanted you to stay and participate in this. But for especially those of you who might be Gen Xers or even like Zennials or something, our library staff is hosting a life-sized, in real life Oregon Trail. I survived the Oregon Trail activity. It's going on right now as we speak. It started this morning while this was underway. It lasts until 2 p.m. So there's still time if you want to head over to the Wabashiki wetlands. They're starting at Dewey Point and traversing all throughout the trail to Fairbanks Park. So you can try to go survive the Oregon Trail as well. Also, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. Because I'm a librarian and we're a humble sort and we don't really like attention, I have to remind you that this Cracker Barrel way predated me. It's been going on for a long time, and it happens because of all the great sponsors that help make it a reality. Last but not least, it is National Library Week. So, yes, our public relations team has been spotlighting our staff online, so follow us on Instagram if you aren't already. Check out the hilarious acting chops on display by many of your library staff. And on your way out, if you're so inclined, tell a staff member Happy National Library Week. Okay, thank you. Yes, that's right. As library staff member designed the winning City of Terre Haute new flag, which was flown for the first time Thursday evening.
One more round of applause for Chris.
Okay.